Finally, it's the big day. I know there was a time where I didn't think you were the right person for my son and opposed the marriage. I also know I said some hurtful things to you that must have really upset you, but I understand that marrying you is my son's choice. No matter what I think, it's his life and it's his decision to make, so I've decided to congratulate you two regardless of my own feelings on the matter. I want us to have a good relationship now, moving forward, so I hope we can both forget the unsavory moments we had together and bury the hatchet. I hope that you can put aside any issues you have with me and live a nice life taking care of my son. My son is my world, and I thought he was the best person in the world. Because of that, I gave you a hard time. He's just the most important thing in my life. I hope you can find it in your heart to forgive a silly old woman like me.
Don't be ridiculous. There's nothing for me to forgive you for. I know I'm not as educated or attractive of a person as your son. I understand where you were coming from. Of course, from other people's perspectives, for a person like me to want someone so much better than themselves and insist on marrying them, it definitely seems like I'm being selfish. However, I really do love your son, and I'm serious about being a good daughter-in-law for you and your husband. If you can trust me enough to let me be part of the family, then I'll be more than happy to.
Of course, a woman's heart being more beautiful is far more important than her looks. Even though your looks aren't the best, since you're such a kind woman, I'm letting you marry my son, okay?
Ah, is that so? Anyway, I'm really thankful you decided to talk with me before the ceremony. It means a lot to me. Thank you for having the courage to reach out to me first. I know it must not have been easy. I can't tell you how worried I've been. Today's going to be much more happy and a comfortable day for me now that we've talked.
No, it's me who should be saying thank you. I felt like my precious son was being taken from me, so I treated you poorly because silly old me really believed that you were taking him from me. Even though I was so bad to you, you still didn't give up and continued on with the marriage and promised to take care of my son. Thank you for that. However, I have a favor I want to ask of you. Is that okay?
Oh, a favor? What is it?
On the roof of our house, there's an old storage shed by where we have a little vegetable garden. It's opposite the fire escape. You've seen it, haven't you? Back in the day when I got married, my stepmother gifted me a ring. I've kept it safe in that shed on the roof since. It's such a precious thing to me, so I wanted to lock it away to make sure I never lost it. But I've been looking for it since yesterday, and it isn't in there. I can't find it anywhere. I really wanted to give it to you in person before your wedding day. If you can, would you please come and help me find it? My eyesight isn't what it used to be, you see. It's very difficult for me. I'm sure it's there, but with this sunlight and all the dust in there, I can hardly see my own hand in front of my face.
I have to go to the wedding venue in 2 hours. Would it be okay if I helped you look for it after we came back from our honeymoon?
But then it's lost its meaning, hasn't it? It's a tradition in our family to place that ring in the hand of the daughter-in-law right before the wedding. It's to make sure that you two will live a happy, peaceful life. It's an important tradition. It can't just be left out. I won't be able to come to the ceremony until I've found that ring. I won't be able to face my ancestors in the afterlife if I just ignored such an important tradition.
Okay, I understand how important this must be for you. I'll call a taxi and be at your house as soon as I can.
Thank you, dear. I'll be waiting. What are you doing here?
What? What do you mean, what am I doing here?
I'm asking you what you're doing here at the wedding venue.
Why, what's so shocking about me, the bride that's getting married today, being at my wedding venue on the day of my own wedding? When you came into the photo room, you looked like you'd seen a ghost. I've never seen someone go white as a sheet like that in real life. It was so funny, I almost died laughing. I laughed so hard that I cried and ruined my makeup. I didn't know a person's eyes could go that big. I almost couldn't believe it. You look like something out of a cartoon. You've usually got such tired, thin eyes most of the time. I can't even tell if they're closed or open. But when you saw me just now, you were so cute with your little eyes popping out of your head.
Excuse me? Watch your tongue when talking to me. Do you think that I'm gonna let you go through with this wedding after how you've just treated me? How dare you make fun of me?
It's our wedding. We will be getting married today. I don't need your consent to marry your son. You have no right to interfere. But still, I tried to be nice to you, to get along with you, because you're my fiance's mother. If people saw that we were at odds with each other, I knew people would talk, and I didn't want you or your son to be the topic of gossip. So I tried my best to be civil with you, at least. But of course, trying to treat someone with no sense of human decency with kindness would never work. I know that now.
What do you think you're saying to your mother-in-law to be?
Did you really hate me that much? No matter how much I think about it, I can't believe that you'd want to do that to me. Were you really intending to leave me locked up in that old shed on your roof on the morning of my wedding day, just so you could stop me from marrying your son? How long were you planning to keep me up there? A person like you, who allegedly loves your son more than anything, would they really try and ruin the most important day of their son's life? Even if you hate me so much and you're more than happy to treat me like trash and try and ruin my wedding day, isn't the other person getting married today your beloved son? And you'd try and ruin that for him? Really?
Because he's my beloved son. Because he's the most important person in the world to me. I can't give him up to a piece of trash like you. I went through 20 hours of agonizing labor to give birth to that boy. He is everything to me. I had to eat nothing but disgusting health foods for a month before I gave birth so that I'd be able to bring him up on my breast milk. I changed his diaper every single hour just in case he'd feel uncomfortable. 4 times a year, I bought him brand new clothes for the season, and every new school semester, I bought him everything he could possibly need and more. I put my heart and soul into raising him. When there was a sports day at school, I'd pack him a home-cooked lunch that took me hours to put together and cheer him on as loud as anyone could. I paid for him to go on all the school trips and extracurricular activities that he wanted to go on and gave him his own allowance every week. My son is the product of my blood, sweat, and tears I shed while raising him. Is it such a crime to want my precious son to get married to a woman at least as half amazing as he is? Is that so unreasonable?
You keep saying that you put your heart and soul into raising him, but from what you're explaining, it doesn't really seem like anything special. Eating well so that you can feed him breast milk, changing his diaper, buying him clothes and school supplies, paying for his school expenses. Aren't these things that every parent does? I'm also a child whose mother went through pain to have me, then spent money to dress, feed, and give me an education. Doesn't that make me just as good as your son? Just because you raised your son so well, does that mean that you just get to decide who's worthy enough to get married to him? Because your son is so special he can't choose to marry who he wants to? Because you love him and you've raised him well, do you expect him to have to do whatever you want for the rest of his life? You want him to just be a doll for you to control and tell what to do? If your child that you've gone through endless hardships to raise, that you love to the moon and back, tells you that they're going to go and get married to the person they love, aren't you supposed to be happy? Isn't your son finding a woman he loves to spend the rest of his life with the fruits of your labor? Isn't it a parent's job to make sure their child lives the best, happiest life possible? Wild animals raise their young with as much care as any human parent, but when it's time for them to leave the nest, they let them leave. Why humans think that taking care of their own child is something that needs to be paid back and have so many expectations of how their child will live their life, I'll never know.
Are you implying that I'm a worse mother than a wild animal? And you wonder why I don't like you. If you were me, would you be happy welcoming a woman into your family as rude and disrespectful as you? You're not even married yet, and you're already talking back to me and insulting me. If you're this brazen now before even marrying into the family, I can't imagine how you'll be afterwards. How can I possibly accept you as my daughter-in-law when I know how miserable you're going to make all of our lives if you stick around? Don't think you've won just because the wedding is going ahead today as planned. I will wear you down to make you leave if that's what it takes.
Well, you don't have to worry about me being your daughter-in-law because the wedding isn't going to happen like we planned today.
What?
We're canceling the wedding, and we'll be sending all the guests away.
What? Is that true? You're going to leave my son? You've made the right choice. How many people in this world, how many men and potential mothers-in-law are there? There's no reason to have to marry into my family. You can find someone more suited for you. There's no need to be selfish and take my son away from me.
We're calling off the wedding today. We're hoping the guests will understand and be willing to come to our wedding ceremony we're planning to hold next time.
Excuse me? Are you joking? Is this a game to you? Are you playing with my son? Who are you to decide to cancel and reschedule the wedding? Is this a joke to you? I take this very seriously.
Whose fault do you think it is that I can't go through with the wedding today? Do you really think you, of all people, have the right to say that to me after what you've done? We can't have our wedding without John's father here. I wouldn't be able to live with the guilt of letting his father not get to attend the wedding of his only child. I had no choice but to postpone the wedding since your husband won't be here. Of course, we're all devastated that we didn't get to go through with the wedding today. This situation was created solely by you. So why are you getting so upset?
What's all this nonsense? Just say what you mean. What do you mean my husband won't be here? He got dressed in his nicest suit as soon as he woke up this morning, and he hasn't been able to sit still with how excited he was for the wedding. Of course he's coming.
You knew how excited he was for our wedding, and you still decided to ruin it. How selfish and nasty can a person be to completely ignore everyone else's hopes and wishes, only to focus on their own childish, stubborn, and spoiled feelings? No matter how hard I try to see it from your side, I just can't understand why you're doing this.
Stop! I've had enough of you speaking nonsense. Where is my husband? Why isn't he coming? He hasn't come to the ceremony hall, and he won't pick up his phone. Do you have something to do with this? You do, don't you? Not to mention, after you went into the shed on our roof and I locked it, I threw away the key. How did you get out of there? Tell me now.
You didn't lock me in there. You locked your husband in there.
What?
When I went to the rooftop to look for the ring, your husband was up there watering the vegetable plants. I told him why I was there, and he said I shouldn't be digging around in an old dusty shed on my wedding day and told me to hurry to the wedding venue and that he'll look for the ring. He said he'd come to the wedding venue right after finding the ring and get ready to greet the guests. But he didn't show up for over an hour. I got this strange feeling that something was off. Up until today, you'd always treated me like a wicked thief that was trying to steal her son away from her. But for some reason, on our wedding day, you decided to start being friendly with me? It didn't make sense. Thinking about it, why would you store a ring that's apparently so important to you in an old shed on the roof? He wouldn't pick up my calls, and he wasn't at the venue either. I thought that was strange, so I took a taxi back to your place and went up to the roof. He wasn't there. I tried to get into the shed, but it wouldn't open. I didn't want to worry my fiancé about this, so I called a locksmith, and he came and opened the shed for me. Lo and behold, your husband was in that shed in over 95-degree heat, passed out on the floor.
What? Why would he do something so stupid? I meant to lock you in there. How did my husband end up passed out in there? How is he? Is he okay? He's not dead, is he?
I called an ambulance. He's in the emergency room right now. The paramedic said it was heat stroke. He's woken up, but he's still out of it. They've got him hooked up to an IV drip at the hospital.
But why did he even go in there in the first place? What a mess he's caused. Stupid old man. There's a perfectly healthy young person there. What kind of stupid old man would go digging around on his knees in a shed when someone else could have done it? All men are the same, young and old. It's ridiculous. All the same. If they see a young woman, suddenly they transform into knights in shining armor and they're at her beck and call. Anything to impress a pretty face. Stupid men.
Do you really think that's appropriate to say about your husband when he's in the hospital? You locked him in there. How can you say it's his fault for trying to help me? How can you say such vile things to your family? I was supposed to become your daughter today. How can you be so horrible on such an important day for everyone? I can't imagine how it was to be so selfish that you always put your husband and son behind you, just so you can do what you want. What's best for you? How can you say you love them with a straight face?
Excuse me?
All your life you've been living on the money your husband brought home and splurging it on everything you wanted. Even after your son got a job, you controlled his salary and used as much as you wanted to, only giving him as much as he needed to live. He had to beg you if he wanted to buy something with his own money. Now he says he wants to get married. Are you worried the money would run dry and you'd be left with no more income to leech off of? And that's why you're opposed to our marriage? It's not because I'm not good enough for him, is it? Did you really think no one would catch on?
I can't believe this. I am warning you. Don't you ever tell that to my son, all right? If you even think about telling him all that, I swear I will never forgive you.
He's smarter than me, though, isn't he? You know that. Is there any need for me to tell him? Don't you think he's figured it out for himself? You really think you have him fooled? When he was a kid, he said he didn't understand why his dad had so little money, even though he worked so hard. He didn't understand why he had to ask you for money, even though you didn't work. But once he'd gotten his own job and you started taking his salary, he realized why that was. He loves you. You're his mother. Of course he does. He knows it's not right for you to control his life and use him for his money, but he still doesn't have it in him to say no to you. He told me all this when he proposed to me. He said that that's why he wants to marry me right away, because he just can't stand living like he is anymore. He wants to start his own life.
He really said that? Are you telling me that my son's been talking like that about me behind my back? There's no way. No way. He's my son. Don't be ridiculous. He'd never think that way about me.
He's been worrying about this all the time, constantly. What if, even after we get married, she still constantly asks me for money? I wanted to say no, but she's my mother. Would I be a horrible son if I say no to her? He has gone through so much stress thinking about what to do, but now he said he actually feels better. He said he's finally at ease now that he can take his life into his own hands and start building a future together with me. Do you understand now how he feels? Or are you just going to turn a blind eye to your son's suffering because you don't want to acknowledge the pain you've caused him?
What are you saying? How can you two be so cruel to me? Are you hoping to shock me into having a heart attack? Do you want to send this old woman to the hospital? Do you? If I collapse from all this stress and shock, will you take care of me? Will you?
Well, as I see it, I don't think there's anyone willing to take care of you anymore. We've been to the hospital, me and your son, and talked to your husband, or soon-to-be ex-husband. He says he wants a divorce and to be free from you. He doesn't want to see you ever again. The woman he loved locked him in a shed and threw away the key, and then went by herself to the wedding venue like nothing had happened. He said he's terrified of you.
What outrageous lies! Don't be ridiculous. What grown man would be terrified of his wife? That doesn't make any sense.
You reap what you sow. You must know that. You can't expect to treat your loved ones like they're just something for you to use and control, and when they don't want to be controlled anymore, be surprised? That's absurd. We'll be holding the wedding again soon, with you uninvited, so please keep that in mind and don't contact us again. After that day, we held our wedding once again and didn't invite my husband's mother as we decided. Even though we hadn't invited her, we were still worried that she'd turn up to the wedding and make a scene, but luckily that didn't happen. According to one of her relatives, about the time the wedding ceremony began, she was outside the venue with sunglasses and a coat covering her face watching the wedding. When I heard that she'd watching the wedding from outside, I felt a bit sad for her, but that's it. Her husband divorced her, and the last I've heard is that she's now working in a convenience store or something. I hope that she thinks long and hard about how she's treated the people in her life up until now and make peace with it and live the best life she can. I can't imagine I'll ever see her again, but no matter how much I hate her, she's still my husband's mother. I hope she lives a long, healthy life. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to see more content.